It is estimated that by 2025, a third of the world's population will have access to 5G networks. The impact of 5G on digital transformation is a game changer, not only for telecom communications, but for technological development. Our next session is on enabling digital transformation with 5G. I would like to welcome Erik Ekudden, Group CTO, Senior Vice President and Head of Technology and Strategy, Ericsson, to speak on the topic. This session will be followed by a short video by Ericsson.
Hello everyone, great to be here in the Economic Times Digital Telco event. I'm Erik Ekudden, CTO of Ericsson, and this will be about enabling digital transformation with 5G. We have certainly seen big changes in society recently. The climate crisis is on top of everyone's mind, but we're also starting to learn that in a post-pandemic society, digitalization plays an even more important role. We have some global fragmentation to be aware of. We have the socioeconomic shifts where AI and automation has some disruptive capabilities, but we also are looking at redefining trust across value chains. Technology is moving as fast as ever. It's about connectivity in everything. It's about sensors, but it's also about connecting people in completely new ways. It's about artificial getting real. Clearly here we have AI supporting most parts of life, and it's becoming an important force also for automation in the network space with self-driving networks. The mirror world, as we call it, or the digital twins, and the connection between physical and digital spaces becomes even more important. And when it comes to smartphones, we're starting to see that there is a new user experience being formed through new form factors such as augmented reality glasses being powered by 5G, where the compute is put at the network side rather than in the thin glasses. This is something that connects to the bigger canvas of connectivity, limitless connectivity, but it also means that it's a change when it comes to focus and actions required across sectors. We need to build new capabilities into the networks. It's about even higher performance. It's about higher security, resilience than we've had before. But it's also about network slice capabilities to be able to use one and the same networks in multiple ways with quality of service guarantees. It's certainly about the ecosystem collaboration. Unlike the consumer space, the industry, the business, the enterprise space is really about new players, new functions coming together, not only with technology, but certainly with business model innovation. Governments and regulators have an increasingly important role to make spectrum available timely across the world, but also to foster this growth by unleashing funds, incentivize operators and others in the ecosystem to really build out infrastructure so that it can provide a competitive ground for industries to flourish on top. But it's very much, as we've seen in the consumer space, about reinventing industries. It's about education and acceptance across sectors. Some will take more time, some will be faster to adopt 5G as the innovation platform to build on. We are looking at this in a multi-year journey. So even as we start to roll out 5G, we are looking at the long-term horizon. And on the long term, we see that networks need to continue to evolve into platforms where four of the key areas is the limitless connectivity itself, or the extensive and dynamic connectivity. Well, we have to support even more diverse use cases, deeper indoor, more of the coverage in rural areas, but also sensors that are self-powered in the future, all the way up to not only gigabit per second speeds, but even higher performance networks. We are talking about automation and intelligence being built into networks. It's about machine learning and other AI technologies, but it's also about having the power at the hands of the operator when it comes to intent-driven and explainable AI. Processing is starting to happen more distributed with our first edge cloud installations in 5G and 4G, and we will just continue to take that to a more continuous fabric as we move workloads not only from public clouds out to the edge, but really move workloads from the sensors and the smartphones into the network edge, because we get better performance characteristics of the sensor or the device, lower power consumption, and higher performance. It is a multi-cloud environment, that will really allow to use best-of-breed capabilities across the network, including advanced accelerators and hardware that will be required also in the future. Last but not least, it's about resilience. We've learned that over the last 2 years when it comes to the importance of networks, when it comes to performance, resilience when networks are stressed to the maximum, but also inbuilt security, creating a trustworthy infrastructure for society to build on. We are already building the network of the future, but you can see that in the mid to long term, we have not only the 4 areas that I went through in the previous slide at the bottom here, the limitless connectivity, the cognitive network, network compute fabric, and the trustworthy systems. We have the capability to, through data-driven products, solutions, and services, enable completely new values for consumers and businesses at the top through the value layer here in the middle. Much of this will be about network performance and the experience that you can create, and of course their latency and predictability and bandwidth really matters, but also about efficiency in using the technology, efficiency in automating workflows across many industries. Will unleash new revenues, both for operators in the network compute fabric, but also, of course, the ecosystem at large, as there are big savings here. Energy efficiency is one of the key parts here. It is about making sure that we can handle the data growth over the coming 5 to 10 years, at the same time not increase the total absolute energy consumption. That of course requires the latest technology, but also advanced operation modes to be able to switch off parts of the network when it's not needed. And as I said, inherent security and privacy is going to be important to expose to the ecosystem, to developers, whether it's for productivity in the WebEx, Zoom, the Teams, all of those tools that we are all familiar with, through to connected vehicles, augmented reality in both the consumer and the enterprise space, inspection, all kinds of maintenance applications, education, and of course gaming and entertainment. First responders are becoming first-class citizens on the 4G and 5G networks, Industry 4.0 with smart manufacturing, but also smart logistics, and of course things like automated guided vehicles and drones. We are seeing this across the different industries, across sectors, that 5G is becoming the innovation platform. But there is also good data in terms of what will happen when it comes to, for example, digital factories and the connectivity, moving from predominantly fixed or non-connected, or in some cases Wi-Fi connected solutions, into truly wireless connected solutions with high performance over the coming 5 to 10 years. Prediction for 2030 to the right here from ABI is that we will basically have some 4.7 billion wireless connections in the digital factories by 2030. If we look at our own industry and the data for 5G, in 5 years' time, by 2027, we will have almost half, 49% of the global subscription being on 5G, and that's a rapid uptake. If we look at the 5G evolution beyond 2027, it will, of course, continue to add capabilities for efficiency, for higher and better user experience, and new features and functionality, and that's across both consumers and enterprises. And that means that 5G will be the workhorse for many more years. We expect it to be the dominant technology all the way until, let's say, 2035. So that means that the value that we are now starting to tap into or unleash across industries will continue to be drawn on based on opening up 5G as a platform for innovation. 2027 is a year where India will have some 50 gigabyte of data consumption per subscriber per month, and that's up 2.7 times compared to 2021. That, of course, begs the question about energy efficiency and sustainability. And if we look historically here over the last 10 years, we've had about 1.6 times the mobile network energy use, but at the same time, almost 300 times the mobile data traffic. So through the latest, most efficient technology, we can manage data growth and still have reasonable energy consumption. Looking forward, we have a bigger challenge, which is, of course, to taper the energy consumption, making sure that we don't continue to increase energy as we move into 5G, as we move into more bands, and there is technology to do that. The use case evolution, and here I'm looking at 4 areas in particular. will be equally important to focus on, because network will be tailored for more advanced, highly demanding use cases in the future. Internet of Senses is one where we're starting now with the immersive XR, but moving beyond video and moving beyond advanced audio into multi-sensory communication would be the next step in the years to come. When it comes to connected intelligent machines, this is really about creating interoperability, but also creating systems of systems where latency have to be even shorter than we are providing in the early 5G systems. I already mentioned the digital twins, but further fusion of the physical and the digital world and the programmable physical world is one of the areas to optimize for in the future. This will require us to stay even more current, even more up to date when it comes to the data from the sensors into the network and the digital representation, but of course also closing the loop. So real-time performance in everything that we do will be increasingly important. The energy consumption, reaching a connected, sustainable world is a big part, both in terms of optimization, but also in terms of unleashing value and creating more efficiency and lower emissions in other sectors. Our own estimates is that the digitalization, and in particular 5G and other advanced technologies, will be able to reduce energy consumption across sectors globally of as much as 15% by 2030. And that in itself is 1/3 then of the target that we put on ourselves from the Paris Agreement. So complete revamp of sectors using digital technologies is the way to go when it comes to also sustainability and energy efficiency. We are looking at use cases here and now when it comes to 5G being rolled out around the world. Some examples are seen in the middle here, such as XR gaming, but also in the enterprise in the industry space when it comes to XR guidance and maintenance applications. We have automated guided vehicles and drone inspection. We have remote operations as a few examples which are now commercialized around the world using 5G technology. This really stresses a need for high performance, which is about predictable and limitless connectivity in the indoor and the outdoor environments. It's about peak rates, data volumes, and low latency, in many cases bounded latency or predictable latency, creating a reliable and trustworthy infrastructure. So I would say that we are already now seeing demands on 5G that will stress the system to its utmost. And that's also why we're very confident that moving ahead, we have to have capabilities in the networks to be able to differentiate quality of service. Not all applications will require the same. So today's quality of service differentiation becomes tomorrow's network slicing, an SLA that allows any user to get the performance, get the inbuilt reliability and security and latency that particular application need. Create differentiation across the network, still with a high performance of the complete infrastructure in mind. We are interviewing sectors across the world. Here is results from talking to manufacturers or manufacturing plant operations. You can see that across the world and across these sectors, from electrical equipment and computers to machinery and equipment to automotive and transport equipment, all the way to wood, pulp, paper and associated products to the right here, there is an average 8 in 10 of these manufacturers that expect to introduce 5G in the coming 5 years. In fact, the darker blue part of these bars represent the plan to introduce 5G networks already in the coming 2 years. So you see that there is a strong readiness. 5G is high on the wish list of these industries, these manufacturing examples and sectors. And that's also why we see that there will be a need for various deployment options. In fact, I will come back to the need for both local deployment as well as wide area deployment. But if you look at what these plants and what these industry cases really demand from 5G, it's trusted connectivity, from trusted identities, trusted software, secure configuration, trustworthy data, of course, protected communication, privacy, and physical security. There is no question that these are attributes, these are key characteristics in the consumer space, but in the industrial space, these are simply deal breakers if we don't have this capability built into the infrastructure. And that also means that it's a collaboration across the industry, across the stack, meeting the needs of businesses, but also using the enablement of advanced security built into standards, both in terms of hardware and software. It's about trusted implementations in hardware and software. It's about trusted deployment, trusted operations, and ultimately creating this trusted business. So across all layers, trust and security and privacy are critical. Now back to the different deployment options. We saw already some examples of local deployments. Private and dedicated networks for industries can then be built with separate networks, or it can be built with virtualized and shared networks. And that's true whether it's public safety, where part of the network is really separate, but part of the network is leveraging the commercial and public network using network slice technology, which is already happening across the world. It's about the resource industries, oil and gas and mining as examples of early movers here. Ports and airports, we have a number of such ports that see not only the flexibility of using 5G as their connectivity and infrastructure, but the energy efficiency really improving. Early examples indicate some 8 to 10% just by introducing 5G in a brownfield operations, and even more when you're going for greenfield deployments. It's about rail, transport and logistics, manufacturing, smart manufacturing, such as an example being the Ericsson 5G factory, that being a greenfield 5G factory with AGVs, with XR, augmented reality powered by 5G, logistics powered by 5G, we can get a 20 to 25% energy efficiency, increased energy efficiency compared to a reference factory. And of course, a complete energy sector with electricity and water. This is 4G, but it's also, of course, the smooth transition into 5G. So some examples from across industries are given here, where I just simply point out that this is now starting to be commercial deployments when it comes to gas storage and processing. To the left here, you see an example of the automotive industry. You have Factory 56 in Germany here, where you see operation efficiency 25% is a number quoted here, and this is using the private 5G network. It provides the flexibility, but it also provides the robustness in process automation. And this is really important across sectors to pair the flexibility with a higher resilience, higher robustness, and higher security of 5G. Belfast Harbour is another good example where it's more focused on public safety, physical security, and of course the energy consumption and climate change as the drivers here. The construction example from Australia and work that we've done together with Telstra indicate that 5G technology, in this case for augmented reality, allowing to do the scanning, IoT structural sensing, collaboration across the site, but also across different parts of the crew, different parts of the value ecosystem in the construction industry has really been a game changer. Real-time design display, for example. 5G for enterprises, an example from Singapore here, where we are working together with ABB as an advanced robotics company. And you can see that the low latency operations, being able to fuse the compute off robot or off the site with capabilities on site using 5G technology, again, has been a game changer in terms of advanced 5G solutions. And these are, of course, just a few examples of what we see. Now, this really begs the question of how do we really accelerate and foster the collaboration across the ecosystem? In the smartphone era or in the consumer space, we have, I would say, well-working ecosystem from standards into chipset and devices, networks being rolled out with new features and functionality, and of course, consumer services being innovated on top. Now we need to work in a similar way when it comes to businesses, enterprises, and industry with players and functions across the whole ecosystem. It's about standards and international organization that can support with the right functionality, but also inspire and support new ideas. It's about industries putting the right requirements onto the infrastructure. And that's, of course, not only the heavy industries, that's across sectors and society. Academia, always inspirational and with in-depth expertise, but governments and regulators, as I've already said, have a very important role here, both to make spectrum available early on and at reasonable price, but also to stimulate and incentivize rollout of nationwide 5G with mid-band capabilities, basically becoming the fabric of innovation for industries to innovate on top. doing this in an open fashion, doing this with a bigger ecosystem and startups, creating both new ideas as well as having the niche expertise to solve particular problems. And of course, service providers playing a critically important role here as a key enabler and of course supporters for this whole ecosystem as it's forming. And I would say that we've learned a lot over the last 30 years when it comes to smartphones, but this is really the time to bring those learnings into completely new field. And collaboration then cannot be stressed enough. This is really about working across the ecosystem, working across the different sectors, learning and using best practices from one sector and bringing it into another one. And it also teaches us that going from mobile broadband and best effort into systems that have even higher demand on operational predictability and service scalability is what we have to add to this fabric, because those are characteristics that will be increasingly important going forward, and they are built in from scratch in 5G, but more is to be done over the coming years. If I look then at India, we have a great possibility not to wait for 5G. We can start already with 4G and then smoothly move into 5G. But we also know that the timely availability of spectrum for 5G is really important, as we've learned from other regions of the world where 5G is been rolled out and have already reached high penetration, in some cases up to more than 90% population coverage. So this is really the starting point, making sure that we can build and leverage 4G, expand quickly and smoothly into 5G, and create this as the innovation platform for the coming 10 years. And this is really where the endpoint for this is a broader ecosystem with collaboration across sectors in the many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ekudden, for all the updates. Now we'll move on to the next session. Stay tuned, everyone.